A millionaire's life was changed forever when an inspiring doctor risked everything to save him. Jack Thompson, a self-made millionaire in the small, unassuming town of Maplewood, drifted into the crisp autumn air as golf balls whizzed down the fairway. His laugh echoed among the club's members, every smile a carefully rehearsed mask. At 45, appearances suggested he had it all: money, success, and power, yet a quiet loneliness weighed heavily in his chest. As he stood in the elite country club, he couldn't shake the feeling that the vibrant streets of Maplewood had faded into the background of his high-rise life. Memories of childhood hayrides, local ball games, and his late father's oil-stained hands working tirelessly in the garage danced in his mind, contrasting starkly with his present solitude. When his heart seized mid-golf swing, he felt the world squeeze into unbearable darkness. The laughter turned to gasps, the luxury a blur replaced by white hospital walls. A heart attack, the doctors said. Irony hung thick in the air as he thought back to his father's mantra, wealth means nothing without health. There, in that moment of vulnerability, he was stripped bare. In the emergency room, he locked eyes with Dr. Emily Carter, a fierce, dedicated physician battling the limits of an overburdened healthcare system. Once just kids racing each other down those same Maplewood streets, now she was his lifeline. Her brow furrowed in concentration, she fought for him, desperately pleading for an unapproved treatment that insurance wouldn't cover. As she pressed her fists against her hips, determination flooded her gaze. Jack couldn't fathom the weight of her activism amid a system riddled with inequality. "Please," Jack croaked, fear jolting through his veins. "Whatever it takes." Her eyes softened for a moment, a flicker of understanding passing between them. As old memories resurfaced, guilt washed over him. He had strayed too far from his father's teachings, hadn't he? News traveled fast. His family flocked to his side, including Kyle, his estranged brother. The tension simmered between them. "You think your money can fix everything, don't you?" Kyle derided, venom lacing his voice. Jack, still reeling from the life-threatening event, felt the sting of truth in his words. The privilege he had wielded so casually now felt like chains. Caught in their web of past grievances, Jack listened to Emily plead with the administrators for the rights of those without financial means, her passionate voice rising above the sterile din of the hospital. Each word echoed in his heart, forcing him to confront the gaps in his moral compass. Could he really ignore the suffering around him any longer? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jack debated his next move, he turned to Kyle, fighting the pull of resentment. "I want to change," he whispered, vulnerability seeping into the air. But just as the words hung between them, a shocking emergency illuminated the room. Emily's call echoed through the hallways, shaking the very foundation of his understanding of family, connection, and what it truly meant to be alive. Would redemption taste sweeter when shared, or would past pains sever the fragile threads binding them? What lay ahead was uncertain, yet Jack knew one thing for sure: the fight for his life was just beginning. The tension in the air thickened as Emily rushed past, urgency propelling her forward. Jack's heart raced. He could feel the panic behind the calm exterior she wore like armor. This wasn't just her job anymore, this was personal, a desperate effort to save more than just a life. "Jack, I need you to stay with me," she said, her voice steady yet commanding. "We have a code blue in another room. I'll need your help." "This is crazy," Kyle exclaimed as he followed Emily, frustration etched in his features. "You're an investor, Jack. Not a doctor." Jack felt a compelling urge to prove himself, to rip off the mask of apathy he had worn for so long. "I don't just have money," he replied, surprising even himself. "I have a responsibility." As they entered the room, Jack saw a patient lying unconscious, monitors beeping erratically. Emily turned to him, eyes blazing with determination. "I need you to talk to the family. They need to know what's happening." The words were a command, igniting something in Jack he thought had been extinguished. "Okay," he breathed, stepping towards the family gathered outside, a cluster of anxious faces. Their fear mirrored the helplessness he had often felt. As he approached them, he surprised himself with the compassion in his voice. "I'm here to help." He introduced himself, and in that moment, the weight of his past choices, his wealth, his detachment washed over him. The family's eyes were filled with hope, desperation. They were counting on him, a man who had spent too much of his life believing money could shield him from pain. "Your loved one is in urgent care, but the doctors are doing everything they can," Jack assured them. It felt odd, but there was a flicker of something close to purpose lighting up the dark spaces in his heart. Minutes turned to hours as Emily orchestrated the chaos. When she glanced Jack's way, gratitude mingled with exhaustion in her eyes. There was something profoundly beautiful about witnessing her fight for every life as if it were her own. He admired her fierce resolve. It reignited a spark in his soul that he thought had long since dimmed. As the night dragged on, the air grew thick with uncertainty. She returned to him, her scrubs rumpled and her hair disheveled. "Do you remember our childhood dreams?" she asked suddenly, her voice softening. Jack's chest constricted. "We wanted to change the world, right? So much has changed, hasn't it? But it doesn't have to end like this." He pondered her words, a slow realization forming. She was fighting for lives, while he had merely been fighting to keep isolation at bay. "I can help," he said, the resolve firming in his voice. There were options that didn't involve just throwing money at the problem. He could advocate, he could support, he could fight alongside her. Just then, an announcement crackled through the hospital intercom, pulling Jack out of his thoughts. Emily's expression tightened. "I'll be right back," she said, determination etched across her face as she dashed off. Jack's heart sank as the reality of the situation hit him. There was no guarantee everything would be all right. Standing there, staring at the door through which Emily had just exited, the past seemed to swirl around him like an unsettling fog. Could he really change? This moment of vulnerability had forced him to confront his deepest fears, but the real test loomed ahead. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every choice he had made. The longing for redemption surged within him like a tidal wave. Would he step into the light of purpose or retreat into the shadows of regret? He opened his eyes, ready for whatever might come next. There was no time for hesitation. Whatever the outcome, Jack knew there was no turning back now. What was about to unfold would push him to his limits, testing the very core of his newly ignited spirit. Would he rise or fall? The ultimate challenge awaited. Jack leaned against the cold hospital wall, his heart pounding audibly in his ears. The sterile smell of disinfectant lingered, but it felt different now, charged with a bittersweet urgency. The flickering lights above cast shifting shadows, mirroring the turmoil inside him. He could still see the anxious faces of the family he had just spoken to, their hope resting precariously on the edge of uncertainty. All his life, Jack had chased wealth, thinking it would bring him security, happiness, even love. But what value did all that money hold in moments like this, moments where human connection and compassion became the lifelines? The biting realization that he unknowingly built walls around himself echoed in his mind. But those walls felt vulnerable now, cracking as he faced the unpredictable world of human fragility. His thoughts turned back to Emily, who had embodied tenacity and grace in the face of chaos. She was working tirelessly to save lives while he had been busy saving his own. He thought about their childhood dreams, their laughter echoing in the backyard, their grand plans under the old oak tree. She had dreamed of healing, and here she was, fulfilling that dream with every ounce of her energy. Just then, the door swung open, and Emily re-entered, wet hair slicked back and brow furrowed. The weariness in her gaze was accompanied by a sense of urgency. "We're losing him," she said, rubbing her temples. "They just called for more hands in recovery. I need you to come with me to help however you can. The patient he's a fighter, but I think he's running out of time." Jack felt a rush of adrenaline surge through him. "What do you need from me?" The question came out stronger than he expected, his voice steady, revealing that flicker of commitment he had finally found. Emily stepped closer, her eyes searching his. "I need you to stay composed. Talk to the family, keep them focused," she replied, a touch of desperation creeping into her words. "Okay. I can do that," he said, already moving toward the door, feeling a surge of purpose propelling him forward. As they raced down the bustling hallways towards the recovery room, Jack's resolve built inside him like a rising tide. The frantic energy of nurses and doctors around him no longer felt overwhelming, it was exhilarating. Maybe he wasn't just an investor wandering through a world far removed from struggle. Maybe he could actually make a difference, however small. In the recovery waiting area, the patient's family was still huddled together, anxiety etched on their faces. Jack approached them with newfound resolve, feeling the weight of their hope on his shoulders. "I spoke with Dr. Emily. She said he's a fighter and they're doing everything they can. I promise to keep you updated," he said, his voice carrying an uncommon warmth this time. A mother, her eyes red-rimmed with tears, grasped one of his hands. "Thank you," she whispered. Jack could see the flicker of trust igniting in her gaze, and it turned over a new leaf inside him, a feeling he hadn't experienced in ages. Time blurred as he navigated this new role. The family shared stories of their loved one, laughter sprinkled with sorrow, and Jack found himself connecting with them on a raw level. It was humbling, grounding. For the first time, he didn't feel the need for distance, he felt alive, feeling their pain, their hope, as if it was his own. Suddenly, a commotion broke the far end of the hallway, and Jack turned just in time to see an emergency team racing past. Emily was among them, urgency radiating from her. He felt that electric connection with her again. She was everything he aspired to be in this moment. But then came the terrifying thought, what if she couldn't save him? The air thickened as uncertainty wrapped around Jack's heart. Questions swirled in his mind. If he truly wanted to be part of this charge, could he handle the potential devastation that might come with being attached? He steadied himself, grappling with an unexpected truth: her fight was intertwined with his own. Emily had reignited a fire within him. But was this merely the beginning, or a dangerous path toward deeper heartache? Jack looked toward the door, the waiting area pulsing with hope and despair. Whatever awaited him on the other side would demand more than he ever imagined. Would he emerge a hero, or witness the darkness of defeat? As Jack stood rooted in the waiting area, the heartbeats of those surrounding him echoed in the silence, each thud a reminder of the stakes involved. He felt a bead of sweat slip down his temple, but he wiped it away, unwilling to let fear take hold. The door remained closed, a barrier between life and death, hope and despair. He could almost hear the frantic whispers of the machines beyond, each beep a rhythmic pulse of survival. Emily's determination was fueling him. The way she had charged into the emergency was a stark contrast to how he had lived his life until now. She was in the arena, fighting bravely for each life, while he had been watching from the sidelines, trading stock prices and chasing after numbers that seemed so trivial now. A young girl, perhaps 10, tugged on his sleeve, pulling him back to the present. "Is he going to be okay?" Her tiny voice quivered with fear, and Jack knelt down to meet her worried gaze. "They're doing everything they can," he said, hoping to convey not just words, but a sense of certainty. "He's a fighter, just like you. And fighters get through tough times." Her lips curled into a small smile, and for a moment Jack felt a glimmer of hope spark between them. The family breathing around him reminded him of what really mattered: the relationships, the shared moments, the love that bound them all together. It was a connection he had neglected for so long, focusing instead on wealth that had never given him this warm feeling of belonging. The minutes dragged on, stretching into what felt like hours. Jack's heart raced every time he heard footsteps near the door, and with each passing moment, he found his resolve wavering. A nurse emerged, her expression calm but guarded, and Jack's breath caught in his throat. The air felt sharp, heavy with anticipation. "Is he?" Jack began to ask, but the nurse simply shook her head, walking past him without a word. The family gasped collectively, their hope fracturing like glass. "Hey!" Jack blurted out, feeling an instinctive need to keep the family grounded. "Let us remember the good stories we have of him. We can lean on those, right? Nothing can take that away." They looked at him with confusion, caught between the terror of the unknown and the desperate wish to grasp onto something solid. So, Jack encouraged them to share their stories. One by one, they opened up about their loved one's quirks, memories that made them laugh, and the little things that made him who he was. The shared laughter, even in the midst of such fear, stitched back the fabric of hope. Just as the tension seemed to ease a little, the door finally swung open, revealing Emily, her scrub slightly stained, but her eyes blazing with determination. "We're working on getting him stable," she said, her voice firm but filled with the fatigue of a long battle. "But we need to be ready. Things can change quickly." Jack felt the air thicken once more. He could finally grasp the dual nature of emotions swirling through the room, hope intertwined with danger. "Okay," he said, instinctively reaching for Emily's hand, his grip tightening. "What do we need to do?" "Stay close. We may need to call on you soon," she replied, her presence radiating strength that lifted Jack's spirits in the whirlwind of uncertainty. As they exchanged a look filled with both vulnerability and determination, Jack felt the mission ahead of them aligning their fates together. He wasn't merely a spectator anymore, he was in the game, facing the unknown alongside Emily and the family, begging for their loved one to survive. But even as they rallied together, a single question pounded in Jack's chest: was he truly ready to face the roller coaster of emotions intertwined with life and death? Would he give everything he had, or would he falter as he had done too many times before? Outside, the noise of the hospital faded, and all that remained was the pulse within his heart, echoing louder with each passing moment. What awaited them next? Was he destined to walk out of here transformed, or would he be left shattered if this fight ended in a heartbreak? As Jack stood beside Emily, a whirlwind of emotions crashed against him like waves on a stormy sea. He held her hand tightly, feeling the strength radiating from her. Each second felt eternal, with time stretching impossibly as they waited for the news that could change everything. The echoes of the hospital faded into a dull background murmur. The comforting aroma of antiseptic lingered, mixing with the palpable fear that filled the air. In the corner of the waiting area, the girl he had spoken to earlier had huddled close to her mother, her wide eyes searching for reassurance. Jack ached for her innocence, hoping desperately that she wouldn't have to face the shattering of her hope. Emily turned to him and squeezed his hand. "Stay focused," she whispered, her voice steady despite the chaos brewing inside the hospital walls. "We do this together." As if answering a silent prayer, the sound of footsteps approached. The family tensed, they were like coiled springs, ready to bounce in either direction. When the door opened once more, a doctor appeared, his eyes scanning the room with a seriousness that sent a chill through Jack's bones. "Is he?" Jack started to ask, even as dread settled in his stomach. The doctor raised a hand to interrupt. "We've stabilized him for now. He's in critical condition, but we're doing everything we can." Relief washed over Jack, but it was quickly chased away by the urgency in the doctor's eyes. "We need family members. You'll want to make some decisions if things worsen." Jack's heart stuttered. Decisions? His head spun as he tried to comprehend the weight of those words. The atmosphere thickened with an unspoken fear. Uncertainty seeped into every crack, threatening to shatter the fragile hope they had managed to build. "Can we see him?" the girl's mother pleaded, her voice trembling. The doctor hesitated. "Not yet. We need to keep him sedated for observations. It's best if you all stay close. We might have updates soon." The mother nodded, determination sparking in her eyes. Jack found himself inspired by her resilience. He took a deep breath, trying to channel that same strength as he turned to Emily. "What do we do now?" he breathed, almost in a whisper. "Let us keep talking," she replied, her tone confident. "We can help the family remember their loved one. Keep his spirit alive in here." As they gathered together, Jack felt the warmth of their shared stories wrapping around them like an embrace. Laughter bubbled up unexpectedly as the girl recounted her father's infamous karaoke nights. Each anecdote brought a glimmer of light into the heavy air, reminding everyone of the vibrant life still fighting against the odds, but a sliver of doubt crept into Jack's heart. What if their stories were not enough? Would laughter be enough to buoy the family's spirits? Would it be enough to fortify the love that had, until now, only been treated as secondary in his life? Amidst the laughter, Jack caught Emily's gaze. In those moments filled with light, he saw the flicker of her passion, the same fire he yearned to ignite within himself. He wanted to be brave like her, to fight for those he cared about. As the last echo of laughter faded, Jack felt a powerful shift inside him. It was as if the layers of his old life were peeling away. "You know," he said, looking at the family, "he may be fighting for his life, but we're fighting for him too. And every memory we share adds to that fight." They all nodded, understanding uniting them. Jack found himself leaning more into this uncharted territory, a wish growing within him. This could be his awakening, the shift that turned him from observer to participant. But just as this realization began solidifying in his heart, a siren echoed through the corridors, urgent and foreboding. The room fell silent, a collective breath held in anticipation. Jack's voice faltered. "What was that?" Emily's expression shifted from strength to sudden concern. "It's a code blue." Suddenly, the weight of it all pressed down on him like 1,000 pounds. Jack's heart raced, pounding reminders of his fears louder than ever. Would he be brave enough to face whatever was coming? Hope and despair collided within him, churning like a storm. The fight was far from over, and Jack realized how much he had to confront within himself. Would he rise to the challenge? Or would he crumble when it mattered the most? The air in the waiting room thickened with uncertainty. Jack could feel every pulse of anxiety radiating around him. Emily's grip on his hand tightened, an unspoken pact between them as the code blue alarm echoed like a tolling bell, a reminder of the fragility of life. Jack's mind raced. What if the worst was happening? He glanced towards the girl, her mother's hand resting gently on her shoulder, a silent comfort. The mother held her breath, eyes flickering between the door and her daughter's expression. Jack couldn't allow himself to show weakness. "Not now." "Do you think it's him?" the girl whispered, her voice a mere hush amongst the growing tension. I don't know," Jack replied, his heart aching. He wanted so badly to reassure her, to embody the courage he had seen in Emily, but the truth felt heavy on his tongue. Moments dragged by like hours until another doctor emerged, her expression serious but softer than the first. "Family?" she called, glancing around, gauging the faces of strained hope and fear. Jack moved instinctively, leading Emily to follow him. The girl's mother stood as well, confusion pooling in her eyes. "Would you like to stay?" Jack offered hesitantly, unsure of how to navigate this landscape teetering on the brink of despair. "No, we'll be fine." "Please go." "We'll be praying," she replied. Jack nodded, the words coming out of his mouth feeling inadequate, but he had no time. The new doctor beckoned them into a side room, where the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, ominous. They entered, the rhythm of their hearts racing in sync. The doctor spoke quickly. "We were able to stabilize him for now. He's undergoing intensive care." Her words poured over them, and somewhere in Jack's chest, hope ignited. "However, due to the severity of the situation, the next few hours are critical." "Can we see him?" Emily asked, voice steady as she squared her shoulders. "Yes, but only for a few minutes, and he may not be responsive." The doctor's gaze softened, recognizing the weight of the words. Jack felt the urgency of time's passage. He and Emily followed the doctor down a sterile hallway, each step a burden, each click of their shoes echoed like a heartbeat. The lingering smell of antiseptic filled his senses, a reminder of reality's grip on them. As they reached the doorway, the doctor gestured them inside. Jack's breath hitched. There he was. Lying in the hospital bed, the man they fought for appeared small, fragile. Tubes snaked over and around him like a patchwork of life and despair. Jack's gut twisted images of karaoke nights and laughter churning together with the anxiety of this moment. Emily stepped forward, her hand reaching out to touch the man's arm. "We're here," she murmured, her voice barely breaking the silence, wrapping around him like a gentle melody. Tears welled in Jack's eyes, watching her strength transform into something beautiful amidst so much pain. He stepped closer too, not quite knowing what to say, but feeling the need to bridge the silence that settled like fog. "You're not alone," he whispered, even if he felt he was speaking more to himself than to the man in front of them. "We're all fighting for you." Just then, as if ignited by their words, the heart monitor began to beep erratically. The rhythm turned chaotic, alarm blaring, and suddenly the room was filled with rushing figures. Jack stepped back in shock, feeling the world tilt beneath his feet. "What's happening?" he gasped, fear gripping every ounce of courage he thought he had found. Emily's eyes darted from the doctor's to him, mirroring the alarm in his chest. "We need to go," she urged as the medical team surged forward. Heart pounding, Jack allowed Emily to pull him into the hallway, panic flooding his veins. They stood in uncertainty, waiting as chaos erupted behind closed doors. The world outside continued as if nothing extraordinary was happening, but for Jack, everything felt irrevocably changed. As they waited, he turned to Emily, determination burning in his gut. "I have to do something. I can't just stand here." Emily nodded, a fierce glimmer in her eye. "Then let us help. We can be that spark of hope they need. It's time to fight." Jack felt the weight of choice settle on him. With courage coiling in his stomach, he stepped forward, ready to battle everything. But what would that mean for him? And what risks would he have to take to bring light back? The answer trembled on the edge of his heart as they moved forward to face whatever waited on the other side of uncertainty. What were they willing to sacrifice for another's life? Jack couldn't shake off the chaos from the room they had just left. The beeping, the shouting, the urgency, it hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to unleash. He turned to Emily, her face pale but her resolve steady. She was channeling something fierce, and it only made him want to push harder. "Let us go find the nurses," he said, a plan crystallizing in his mind. "There must be something we can do, some way to help." Emily nodded, her grip on his hand tightening again. They made their way down the hallway, past the waiting area, where anxious families hovered like ghosts, uncertain and scared. All around them, tension crackled, but Jack could feel a flicker of determination taking root. They approached the nurse's station, where a young nurse was jotting down notes, her brow furrowed with concentration. Jack cleared his throat, a nervous lump forming. "Excuse me," he called out, his voice shaky. "We need to know what's happening with him." The nurse looked up, surprise breaking through her seriousness. "I can't give out that information right now. We're doing everything we can." "Everything?" Jack echoed, frustration bubbling inside him. "What does that even mean? We just saw the chaos in there." Emily stepped in, soft but firm. "We know he's in critical condition," she said, her voice steady. "But we believe," she paused, gathering strength, "that we can contribute in some way. Maybe we can help with the waiting families." Or the nurse's eyes softened slightly. "I appreciate the sentiment," she said. "But right now, the best thing you can do is provide support to each other. It's tough on everyone." Emily glanced at Jack, and he could see the spark dying in her eyes. But he wouldn't let it end here. "We can't just stand around. We need to do something, anything." Before the nurse could respond, Jack caught sight of a doctor pacing with urgency a few feet down the hallway. His heart raced. There was something in the way the doctor moved, a determination that resonated deeply with Jack. "Excuse me," he called out again, this time louder. The doctor turned, and as their eyes met, Jack felt a connection forming, an understanding of what lay at stake. "Is there anything we can do to help?" The doctor paused, glancing at the nurses, then back at Jack and Emily. "The waiting is a part of the process, but if you want to be useful, I need more manpower. If you can assist with paperwork or keep the families in the waiting area occupied, it would free up some of our staff." "Yes. We can do that," Jack replied, feeling the surge of purpose lift him. Emily echoed his enthusiasm, and together they started to move, ready to turn their anxiety into action. They began distributing information pamphlets and reassuring families as best they could. Each conversation was a reminder of why they were there. Jack met the eyes of a father who was trembling, a mother whose mascara was smeared from tears. Jack shared stories, listened, and reminded them of hope and the small victories they clung to. Hours passed, and with each new face, the fire within Jack burned brighter. He felt the chaos shift, becoming something manageable not just for him but for those around him. Finally, they could hear commotion from down the hall. The doors swung open, and the head doctor emerged, a grim expression painting his face. "I need the families of Mr. Daniels," he called out, voice echoing in the cramped space. Jack's heart raced with fear and anticipation. He felt Emily's hand squeeze his reassuringly. This was it. They had done everything they could, but the outcome remained uncertain. As families rushed past him toward the doctor, Jack turned to Emily, determination etched on his face. "Whatever happens, we need to be ready. We can't give up hope." Emily nodded, her eyes bright with shared courage. "Whatever it takes." And just like that, as the chaos unfolded around them, Jack realized this fight was about more than just hope. It was a battle of faith, love, and connection. But was he truly ready for everything that could ripple out from this moment? A soft murmur broke through the noise. Her name had been called. But what fate awaited the man they had fought for so fiercely? Jack could feel his heart in his throat as he and Emily stood frozen, the air thick with tension. Families hurried past them, eyes wide and frightened. Each face was etched with hope and despair. He couldn't forget the father, the trembling mother, so many lives at the brink of a storm. Emily squeezed his hand tighter, her warmth giving him a momentary sense of security. "Jack, what if he cut her off gently?" "No what ifs. We stay strong. We have to believe." But his own words felt flimsy against the reality closing in. The doctor's voice rang out again, more urgent this time. "I need the families of Mr. Daniels now." As the crowd shifted, a woman with frayed edges of desperation rushed forward, her gaze desperately searching for clarity and assurance. Jack recognized the look in her eyes. Fear. It had etched itself into every fiber of this moment. He couldn't contain the urge to reach out, to comfort. "Excuse me," he took a step closer, locking eyes with her. "I know we're all scared. But whatever it is, we'll face it together. We're here for each other." She gave a slight nod, tears pooling but unshed. Jack felt a spark of courage growing, igniting in the hearts of those around him. Emily stepped beside him, her voice a gentle anchor. "You're not alone. We're all terrified, but we're in this together. Let us wait for news as a family." Their small group grew, other families pausing to lean in, seeking connection, unity amidst chaos. The shared pain began to weave an invisible thread of hope. It was raw and messy, but there was strength in their togetherness. Jack took a deep breath, glancing at Emily. "What are we going to do, though? We can't just stand here." A soft hand rested on his shoulder. It was the nurse from earlier, her features softening. "You're doing more than you know. It's vital for families to connect. Just being present makes a difference." Jack nodded, absorbed in this unexpected role. The warmth painted over his previous fears, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, he couldn't fix the situation but could be part of something larger, something woven from shared stories, strength mingled with hope. In the corner of the waiting area, he overheard snippets of conversations fading in and out. A mother talking about her son's birthday party, another family member sharing a memory they held dear. Each story was a lifeline tossed into the vastness of uncertainty, and with every word, Jack felt the emotional burden lighten, even if just a little, but the door slid open again, and the doctor's presence grew heavier. He stepped into the room, scanning the faces quietly. Jack's heart raced anew. Families of Mr. Daniels? He called out, releasing a fractured silence. I need you all. Tension clutched at Jack's throat. He leaned into Emily, arms wrapping around her. This was at the moment they had been holding their breath for. As families clustered nearer to the doctor, one question weighed heavily on Jack's mind. What news awaited them? In the midst of discomfort and fear, what truth would they have to face together? Would the spirit they had forged survive whatever lay on the other side? He stood on the brink of anxiety and hope. As the doctor began to speak, Jack felt the world around them shimmer with possibility, a daunting, life-altering moment teetering in the balance. And in that crucible of fate, would they find the resilience needed to weather the impending storm? The doctor cleared his throat, his eyes scanning the group before landing on the woman who had rushed forward earlier. Jack felt a lump in his throat, a beast of dread waiting to strike. Mr. Daniels is stable, the doctor started, and for a split second, hope surged through the room like a lightning bolt. But he's in critical condition. We need to monitor him closely. I'm afraid it may be a long road to recovery. Gasps mingled with murmurs, the sound weaving a tapestry of relief and anguish. Jack felt Emily's breath hitch beside him. He tightened his grip on her hand, not knowing whether to rejoice or brace for more sorrow. Stable, the word echoed in his mind, a tenuous thread hanging in the air between hope and despair. He could see the woman crumple, tears cascading down her cheeks. Others reacted, some collapsing into their loved ones, while a few stood rooted in disbelief. Is there anything we can do? A voice piped up from the back, heavy with emotion. Jack turned to see a man with gray streaks in his hair, his hands trembling. The doctor nodded gravely. Support him. Share your stories, your love. It means the world to a patient in his state. I'll have updates as soon as possible, but right now, he needs you more than ever. The word settled like a warm blanket over them. Jack looked around, seeing the nods of agreement, families standing tall together. They would do this. They would bring their stories, their laughter, and their memories to Mr. Daniels. Can we see him? Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper, laced with longing and anxiety. I'm afraid only immediate family will be allowed in the ICU initially, the doctor explained softly but firmly. But you can create a waiting area, a space for all of you to share and be there for one another. Jack turned to Emily, overwhelmed by a sudden responsibility swelling inside him. We should organize a schedule for when everyone can visit. We can stand in as support when family isn't there. Good idea, Emily replied, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. It's what he would want to know he's not alone. And so they moved. The chaos around them transformed into an unexpected drive. They gathered scraps of paper, jotting down names and contact information, creating a makeshift schedule. Jack felt invigorated, a rush of purpose buoying him despite the lingering fear. As they worked, stories flowed, each one a lifeline cast into uncertainty. Jack marveled at how laughter flickered amid tears. The waiting area filled with voices of love and resilience, growing stronger with every shared memory, no matter how small. But deeper inside, as they laughed and cried, Jack couldn't shake a shadow that hovered. What if their love wasn't enough? What if no matter how many stories were shared, they fell helpless in the face of fate? Suddenly, a commotion just outside the waiting area pulled his attention. He turned toward the noise, heart racing again. Was it more bad news? Jack stood at the precipice, feeling hope and worry collide within him, a perfect storm brewing anew. What awaited them out in the unknown? Would their newfound connection withstand what was to come? "Something's happening," Jack said, the urgency in his voice drawing the whole group's attention. They turned to face the door, all drawn in by the chaotic buzz, hearts pounding steadily against uncertainty. What was going to break through that door next? Just then, the door swung open and a medical team rushed in, carrying a stretcher. Jack's heart raced, fear gripping him once more. They moved swiftly, their expressions grim but focused. "What's happening?" Someone gasped, but no one had the answers. The air grew thick with anxiety. Jack felt it coiling in his stomach, twisting tighter with each passing moment. Emily stood beside him, determination etched on her face, but Jack sensed her vulnerability too. "Jack, we can't lose hope," she said fiercely, gripping his wrist. Her strength moved him, sending warmth tingling through his veins. They were in this together, ready to face whatever storm was brewing. Then it hit him, a wave of clarity washed over him, a realization that had been growing steadily in the background through their shared experiences. "No matter what happens," he whispered to Emily, "we've already changed. We're not just fighting for Mr. Daniels. We're fighting for each other, for all of us." Their whispered promise lingered in the air, even as more chaos unfolded. A hushed anticipation settled over the waiting area. Jack watched the team work, his heart swelling with admiration. They were heroes, just like Emily, just like he could be if he let go of the past and embraced this hope. Moments later, the head doctor emerged again. He looked worn but resolute, his expression serious yet softer. "We're doing everything we can," he said, scanning the faces, searching for ties that bound them all. Jack felt the doctor's eyes land on him, and his heart pounded in response. "We need more families to share their stories. Encourage one another. Engage with him when he becomes responsive. It matters." Jack looked around the room filled with anxious faces, an extraordinary mosaic of shared humanity. Every soul meant something, and together they could overcome adversity. He felt the urgency pushing against his chest as he stepped forward, flanked by Emily. "We can do it," he declared, pulling everyone's attention. "We'll create a rotation for visiting, and we'll share every memory, every joke, every encouragement. It'll remind him of who he is, why he matters." He could nearly see the light flicker back to life in their eyes, the warmth returning. Families nodded and murmured in agreement, a sense of solidarity binding them. Jack watched as tears of sorrow mingled with those of hope, fragile threads weaving a strong tapestry. When the initial shock wore off, they began collaborating fervently. Jack and Emily took charge, orchestrating compassion amongst the families like seasoned conductors leading a symphony. Laughter erupted anew, replacing despair with memories rich enough to breathe life back into Mr. Daniels. Jack felt that flicker of purpose blossom in his chest, igniting a fire he thought extinguished. Hours melded seamlessly into their efforts. They arranged schedules, created banners of hope, and shared poignant tales that swirled through the waiting area. Every word turned into an invisible bond, fortifying their resolve to rally together for this man who was fighting his way through the darkness. Jack found himself laughing, remembering what it felt like to truly connect. He shared his own tales, those forgotten joys from his childhood intertwined with Mr. Daniels' struggle. And through each yarn spun, Jack felt a piece of himself bridge the gap that had long held him captive, separated from his community. "Jack, look!" Emily pointed excitedly one evening as the families gathered around a wall crowded with photos and notes. Each paper flickering with color was testament to shared resilience. "We're bringing people together." "Yes," he replied, a surge of pride swelling in him. They were no longer just spectators, they were a force, amplifying light in the face of adversity. Families were sharing lunch, laughter filling the hall, cocooning them in warmth, a sacred bond rising from the depths of despair. Finally, the doctor returned, and the room grew hushed again. He looked at everyone, his expression unpredictable. Jack braced himself. "Mr. Daniels is showing signs of improvement. He.s. responding slowly, and we're hopeful he'll pull through. Cheers erupted, and Jack felt tears stream down his face, mixing with the laughter that danced like music around them. Faces bloomed with relief and joy, bonds solidified over shared fears and memories. Emily turned to him, her eyes reflecting joy and gratitude. "Thank you for leading us here. This has changed everything." And it had. Together, they had borne the burden of uncertainty and transformed it into strength. Jack no longer felt the weight of loneliness crushing down on him. Instead, he felt the warmth of connection, a family woven through lights of hope in each story they told. As days turned to weeks, Jack immersed himself alongside the families, watching Mr. Daniels recover bit by bit, each small victory igniting roars of celebration among them. He found himself breaking into laughter amidst the tears, feeling for the first time how powerful human connection truly was. The moment had been etched into him, a reminder that life is richer when we embrace it collectively. Mr. Daniels emerged from the darkness, surrounded by a community that held one another up. Jack the millionaire gifted something far more valuable than wealth. He had rediscovered the worth of compassion, rekindled hope, and the indelible spirit of family. As the daylight broke through moments of sadness, spilling warmth over Maplewood, Jack vowed to never forget that transformative power again. Together they had shifted from fear to strength, transcending their previous lives, leaving behind chains that had once bound him. He sensed the pure urgency in Emily's presence beside him, the heart that had been ignited anew. "We won this battle together," he declared, and the stories continued, a continuous thread, weaving community and transformation deep into the core of their lives. So let this be a call: don't just read others' stories, be a part of them, and live your own fiercely. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support and become part of the journey. Don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans know this is how we grow together.